Absolutely. Absolutely. Autism.
Absolutely autism.
Ooh, therapies.
Yep. Therapies.
Welcome to the world of therapy.
Yes.
All the terms for therapies.
OT, speechy, psych,
Behavioural therapist.
so many different things.
Speak up. If you don't know what OT means, ask somebody.
I thought it was adult rehabilitation.
Yes.
So when they injured themselves at work, that's what I thought OT was.
It's like my child doesn't have an occupation.
Hello, OT. Yeah, we'll go see an OT, sure.
You will, after you've had your diagnosis, you will get a list of therapies that they believe will help your child. Yes, and some of them you will never have heard of before. Yeah. Okay, so what are some common therapies that you will hear about, and what are they?
OT is occupational therapy. It's pretty much
Working on your fine motor skills, your larger motor skills.
all the things to help you function, and then again regulate.
Really good for regulation, really good for social skills, confidence skills as well.
Yeah, we love our OTs.
OT is fun. I think OT is majority of the time play-based for children. So they have absolutely no idea that they're learning while they're playing. So it's quite genius.
Speech can be used in all different areas. It's not just talking, it's communicating, how well you communicate, how to do things in different social situations.
How to communicate without talking.
Yes. Yeah.
Regulation as well. You can find a child will scream and use the voices that they're not meant to use in a building or in a social situation. Speech can teach you, speech therapists I should say, can teach you different tools, different techniques to establish the communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's all different forms of communication, especially when your child is non-verbal. Things that they could use right up until adult life as well.
Especially things like PECS cards, which is picture exchange communication.
All your visuals.
Yes, visual aids, you'll hear all about those.
They're a big one in our house. My child is his communication is very much based on visuals, and that's come a lot through his speech therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love our speeches too.
We do love our speeches too.
We do love our speeches.
Then you've got psychology.
For psychology, I thought my son needed psychology because he has a lot of behavioural issues, but I found because communication isn't the best thing with my son, it was a behavioural therapist that was able to help rather than a psychologist. So there are people that work in similar areas that can be more catered to your child, and psychology could work for a child that needs to talk about problems and frustrations. But if they don't have that skill, and even if they did have that skill, a behavioural therapist work on behaviours that are aggression, social skills that aren't
Socially acceptable.
Socially acceptable.
Everything's just how your child needs it. You can try something, it might not work. It's not the end of the world. You just go on and you find what works for your child.
Absolutely. Therapies can be a bit overwhelming at first,
Yeah.
especially when you don't understand what is involved in them. And let's be honest, therapies sometimes can be quite tedious as well. It does become such a big part of your life, and it can become a bit annoying.
Yes.
But very necessary. Also very expensive. Which will bring us to another commonly used term, NDIS versus NDIA. We will do quite a few videos separately on NDIS because it is very important for everybody.
And it's a lot to get your head around.
It is a lot, but for now, we'll just break down the term NDIS and NDIA. What is it?
So NDIS is National Disability Insurance Scheme. Basically the thing that the government has put in place to help fund the therapies that people with disabilities need. Yeah.
NDIA is the National Disability Insurance Agency. So they're the people that you work with to issue out the NDIS.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually had an occupational therapist explain to me once I went to a seminar about autism, and I thought he talked about regression in a very simple, basic term. Generally, your everyday child will progress like this. A child on the spectrum will progress like this. Yes. So they may come up here,
And then they'll drop
but
down.
then they'll drop down.
Yeah.
That is regression. Regression, by definition, is going backwards.
You can see it in the behaviour, you can see it in regressing in the way that they eat, in the way that they communicate. A lot of children regress back to when they were babies, and they respond to that regression better.
They can be talking and suddenly stop talking.
Yep.
That's regressing.
They can be toilet trained and suddenly then not be. Yes. We have a lot of regression. Yeah. So we have a lot of regression happen when the routine changes. So school holidays.
Yes. I think that's actually an important thing to bring up, because a regression a lot of the time can be a hidden problem. Sometimes regression can happen naturally, but sometimes it can be a red flag for you that there's something
That's
else
something
going
that you
on.
need to address. Yeah, absolutely. And don't beat yourself up if you don't catch it straight away.
Fixation. Ooh, that's my little boy. Fixation is, how do I describe fixation? Well, let's say first and foremost, fixation, if your child does have fixation tendencies, it will drive you crazy. And it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay to go a little crazy.
For my son, is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So when he'll use it when he is highly anxious.
Yeah.
He will find something that he enjoys. For example, he's right into technology and he loves air conditioners and fans and TVs and iPads and, you know, you name it.
Yeah.
If it's electronic, he loves it. Yeah. And if he's upset or stressed or scared, he will become fixated, just as an example, if the air conditioner isn't on.
Yeah.
And it can be freezing. And he will just continue. Yeah. Put air conditioner on, air conditioner on, air conditioner on, air conditioner on. That's a fixation, and it's something that they literally, mentally and physically cannot get past.
Yeah.
And I find again with the regression, sometimes fixation is there's something hidden behind that.
Well, I guess you could call some fixations almost a stimming.
Yes.
It's that self-regulation with something that is very familiar and very comforting for them.
My son, he went through a phase, he was about 4, where he was fixated on the sliding door on our car shutting a certain way. Very, very hard. Had to be hard, but it had to be a certain way. And one time, I had no time to deal with it. I knew that this was what he needed, but I couldn't. I just could not shut it the right way. To the point he was screaming, that we got the police called on us. Somebody had thought there was a woman screaming. And she was in trouble. Internally, yes, I was screaming, but it is that, oh my goodness, this is being taken away from me, that fixation. And we did it for a long time. We conformed to the fixation because, to be honest, it was easier.
So atypical, that's generally what our kiddos are referred to as. And you'll hear some people call it AT, and then with neurotypical they call it NT. So my NT kid and my AT kid.
And neurotypical is generally everyone else.
So you'll see in chat rooms, they will refer to their children as my AT child or my NT child.
Yeah, they're not from the Northern Territory.
That's right.
And that's another fun thing about being in a chat room is when you don't understand those.
I think it's also
shortened
considered the
terminologies.
politically correct way of describing a child who isn't on the spectrum.
Yes.
So it's a lot nicer way of,
Than saying my normal
my
child.
normal child or my mainstream child,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
it's neurotypicals. In the autism
It's
world
the
is
PC
a
way.
bit more PC way of saying things.
So we've given you a few definitions on different terms used in the autism world and things that you hear quite regularly. It's okay if you don't understand them. You know, if you go through a number of years and don't know what atypical is and you don't know what the purpose of an OT is, don't get hard on yourself. We are bombarded with so much information and it's so normal to just go, I don't know this term. But we're here to help you out if you need to know any other terms, things that you struggle with, and we understand how hard it is to connect sometimes with these.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're going to put up a list of a whole lot of other terms as well on all of our social media and our website. Feel free to comment with anything else you'd like to know.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, and share it. Share it with your family, share it with your friends. Knowledge is power.
On our next video, we're going to cover diagnosis, our experience, all the ins and outs, everything that you have got to look forward to if your child is possibly not diagnosed yet.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.